Okay. I need y'all to hear me out. Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Redwolf4765, and Midnight Gemlord. Now, before we have this breakdown / discussion on whether or not Meliodas and Zeldris are, like, actually full size, please don't forget to leave your own thoughts on whether or not they're full size in the comments section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below. You support for as low as $1 a month. Get exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, you can now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? All the Pencil here. And, you know, I've been thinking, right? I've been taking a look at Meliodas and Zeldris, and I've been like, you know what? They're kind of small. And, like, obviously this has just been a running gag in the series. Like, legitimately, ever since we've been introduced to Meliodas, the thing is that he's short, he's tiny, he's small. And for the longest time, this just, I guess it just didn't have context. Like, we never really questioned it. It's just like, oh yeah, people are just born short sometimes. And, you know, Meliodas is short and buff, and seems to be a fully functioning adult, so it'd be like that sometimes. Maybe he just stopped growing. And, you know, for the longest time, I thought that too. But then we got introduced to the Demon King. And the thing about the Demon King, right, is that boy was big. Like, big. Like, always big. Like, even before we get to, like, the old Demon King that's, like, chilling in purgatory for over 1 billion years and has kind of been vibing out, eating purgatory beasts and getting ever mightier and bigger with them. Like, when he punished Meliodas and Elizabeth with the supreme deity, bro was big. Like, legitimately, looking back at that panel, yeah, the Demon King was like 20 Meliodases tall. Bro was extremely tall. And the thing is, not only that, but on top of this, we do have a brother for Meliodas, who's also short. Like, legitimately, he's just tiny. It's Zeldris. And the thing is, right, another thing about the Demon King is that he's pretty old, like I mentioned. Bro has spent over 1 billion years in purgatory, and he's gotten bigger and beefier as the time has gone on. Sure, he's old. His bones are starting to creak and stuff like that. You know, he wants a new, younger vessel. Call him Master Xehanort Light. But with that being the case, he's still growing. And of course, it's through eating purgatory beasts. But still, even the old Demon King that we see 1 billion years ago in purgatory time, and 1,000 times 3 years ago in real time, he's kind of tall. So why are his kids so short? Like, notably, we don't know 100% of things about demon biology. Like, we just simply don't. And we know the royals should be some weird exception to the kids of regular demons, just because, like, it's a direct bloodline versus a creator sort of thing. Like, your sand sculpture is not going to have the same lifespan or properties as you. So the royals in general are weird. The only reason I'm not talking about Elizabeth is because Elizabeth is a pure, genuine pack. Like, the goddess Elizabeth is gone. We will never see how old she was meant to be. However, the reason it got me thinking that Meliodas and Zeldris aren't full size is actually because of Tristan, right? Because in the recent series, I've been talking about all the time that, you know, Tristan's baby. Tristan is not grown up at all. Tristan literally, in terms of demon time, is like 1 year old and 6 months. And then in terms of goddess time, that bro is like, it may sound bad. He hasn't even left his mom yet. Bro hasn't been born yet in goddess time. You gotta realize that Ludishel is 6,000 years old. I'm not kidding. You can go look it up. He is 6,000 years old. Tristan's 16. Bro has a long way to grow to go. But the difference is, Tristan is baby. He is 16. And he's also, like, part human. We're going to make a whole video on why he shouldn't be half human. But still, that's a different story for another time. So I can excuse bro being small. At least relatively. Like, he's taller than his father already. Which goes to show you that human timeline is definitely running strong in him. But regardless, the reason Meliodas and Zeldris are still topics of interest is because of how old their father would have to be. Like, we don't know how old the Demon King was when he was first born. Like, notably when the Lady of the Lake tells us that he was created, he seems to already be created old, but we know that's not true because we see younger variations of him. Like, prime Demon King Zeldris is what the Demon King appeared as when he was in his prime. Meaning that the version we see that created the demon world is even weaker than his prime self, which is crazy to think about. But regardless, the Demon King had a prime. He had a quote-unquote regular height, and even then, that height was comparable to the One in terms of just sheer magnitude and height. And the One, I feel like I don't have to remind you, is a very tall dude, even taller than regular Escanor, who is also already a very tall dude. And with that being the case, somewhere in translation, there should be a height differential that isn't too massive. Like, you see it in some people. Like, commonly, there will be 6'3" people in our world who will marry 5' people. And their kid will usually be, like, in the 5'7" to, if they're lucky, 6 foot range. With that being the case, unless the Demon King had a child, which we know that Meliodas and Zeldris, they may have different mothers. I don't know why. That's a common theory that's been running around just because of their hair colors. But still, they may have different mothers in the case of who their lineage is. But they do have one. Or at least, like, Nakaba generally said that they do. Like, when asked, do Meliodas and Zeldris have a mother, he says, I'd assume so. Which makes it seem like they do. So unless their mom was, like, legitimately 3 feet tall or something. And even then, the height differential is a bit too much. And another thing that comes with the Demon King being their father is their hypothetical longevity. For the longest time, I was like, oh, well, Meliodas and Zeldris can't really do too much training or stuff like that, like Purgatory or anything anymore, because they're limited lifespans. They could die quickly because of the demon lifespan being 1,000 years. But as was eloquently pointed out by a lot of y'all, yeah, in reality, maybe not. Because we know there are demons that have cheated this 1,000-year lifespan thing. Specifically, high-ranking demons, those high-ranking demons being Chandler and Cusack. And with that being the case, considering they are just direct creations of the Demon King and not even his direct blood, it's highly likely that 1,000 years is not Meliodas or Zeldris' limit in terms of their respective lifespan. And with that being the case, note, Zeldris is only 252. By regular demon standards, technically, if we compare demon lifespans to human lifespans, he would be done growing by 25. But even still, if we compare it to just Chandler and Cusack's lifespan, not to talk of the Demon King, that would mean Zeldris, in terms of lifespan at least, has only lived about 4.2% of his actual lifespan. If we assume that 6,000 is the max lifespan for a demon, which it really isn't, because we know at least if you have the blood of the Demon King, you're going to live way longer than that, considering he's been around for 1 billion years. And Chandler and Cusack, while Chandler was indeed a little chunky, he obviously had his buff form, and they didn't look like they were dying anytime soon. So 6,000 really ain't the limit. But out of 252 years, compared to 6,000 years, only 4.2% of the lifespan of Zeldris has been lived. Now, if you want to know how much it is for the billion that hypothetically Zeldris could live if he's going to live as long as his father did, then that gets even crazier. If we go by the billion ratio, Zeldris would have lived 0.0000252% of his lifespan. That's it. Bro has essentially lived nothing. And considering we know that the demons can still grow, we know this is biologically possible for both of them. Because when they were possessed by the Demon King, both Meliodas and Zeldris did proceed to age. Or at least their body appeared to age. King Meliodas, or Demon King Meliodas, when he first appeared before his power had fully settled in, like with Zeldris, grew a good solid feet. He was nearly Bond's height, and Bond is like 7 foot something. Then you have Demon King Zeldris, who just kept getting taller as he grew to further and further accept his father's power internally, meaning his body does have that potential for growth. Which means that him, at least, in terms of Zeldris, has lived very little of his lifespan. And admittedly, we don't know when Meliodas had his aging stopped. It's just an unknown thing relative to us. We have no idea what it was. It could be assumed to be around 252 as well, because he and Zeldris do appear to be the same size, and we don't have a necessarily, like, birth gap in terms of years between the two. Like, it's just not, once again, not stated anywhere, and we can't even use, like, Zeldris' base age and Meliodas' base age, because once again, we don't have that interval. We don't know when Meliodas stopped aging. But with that being the case, they're still babies. Like, I don't think I have to tell you, but going by the billion lifespan, living 0.0000252 of your lifespan is not that much. It really ain't. So in terms of raw power and raw time, if we assume these two haven't stopped growing yet, which I think is a reasonable assumption to make, just going off of their father, since we have no reference for their mother, and we have a reference for their hypothetical lifespans as high order demons, demons of the highest order, don't get me wrong, I think it's entirely possible those two have not stopped growing. And the reason I even made this video is because I was trying to rationalize Meliodas being so insanely strong in my head. Like, base Meliodas is worthy enough of a threat for King Arthur to be like, oh yeah, he would have like legitimately body bagged me, Tristan, if you didn't step in the way. You know how that could hypothetically make sense? Because Mel literally could have just gone to purgatory for he could have literally spent all the 16 years in purgatory, and it would have done nothing to his lifespan. It would have been a baby. Like, here, let's do some quick math once again. Okay. So this is if Meliodas and Zeldris, once again, I'm specifically using Zeldris because he's the only one whose biological age we actually have. I don't count his chronological age because unlike Meliodas, he wasn't alive for that time, and Meliodas wasn't aging, so we don't have that. We're not going to use that. We're just going to use their biological age that we have reference for, which is Zeldris. If we once again assume that their full lifespan is 1 billion years, then Zeldris, if I'm not mistaken, if my math is correct, if he and Meliodas spent all 16 years of time in the time skip, then guess what? Zeldris would have only lived 0.84% of his lifespan. He's not even at a whole percent yet in terms of how much lifespan he has left. You gotta realize how crazy that is, right? Like, their potential for growth is wild. It's crazy. It's insane. It's the next level. Because if we go with this idea that they have not reached full size yet, or a fraction of it, then they're still essentially babies. They're hypothetically more baby than Tristan is. Then, once again, Tristan's whole hypothetical lifespan gets way crazier because he has, at least directly, he's part goddess, and goddesses are already extremely long-lived. They, like I said, Ludacell's 6,000 years old, and if you ask me, it doesn't look like Ludacell's going to be dying anytime soon, in terms of his external age-like appearance. Then, you have him being the grandson of the Supreme Deity and the Demon King, two creatures who should reasonably have the same, if not more, potential for life in terms of the Supreme Deity, just based on how the goddess-to-demon ratio worked out. And then, son of Meliodas, who should have this crazy lifespan as it is, and then Elizabeth, who imparted some of her goddess soul. The only thing that's holding Tristan back from having like a multi-billion year lifespan is just the fact that he's part human. So that piece of him may just die. It was not meant to exist that long, at least I assume. But at least for Meliodas and Zeldris, two pure demons, they may just be babies. They may just have not lived a fraction of 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 their lifespan. And that could explain how both could be extremely powerful and relevant by the time of this series. Because they have so much lifespan to burn. They could literally live a couple hundred, a couple thousand, a couple million years away from home, which in reality would be like a couple days. It's like a weekly vacation for them, essentially. Like, they could literally just disappear for a week and come back way stronger and look like they've barely aged a day, just based on their lifespan and how much they could spend training. And notably, as someone pointed out to me, Henriksen did mention that Meliodas does visit the demon world on occasion. So he could literally be pulling up to the demon world, grabbing Zell, chopping it up for a little bit, then they head in purgatory and throw hands. Because the biggest thing I was wondering about was like, well, when you think about it, Bond can't really spend too much time in purgatory, because as far as we know, he's back to a regular human lifespan. So he's already going to leave Elaine pretty quick, so he can't be wasting those precious years away in purgatory. Unless, being a member or a part of the Fountain of Youth for so long gave him some enhanced lifespan that Naku hasn't told us about. Bro is a regular human now. He's going to die relatively quickly, at least compared to everybody else. And sure, you have characters like King and Diane who have and unbelievably long lifespans too, just based on things like Harday and stuff like that. But even with them being the case, they may not want to risk that. They may not be powerful enough for purgatory, being completely real. Their kind of adaptations and strength are different than Bond's. They may not be able to survive there. And also, once again, the lifespan thing. Meanwhile, with Mel and Zell, and if you want me to mention Elizabeth, she's also a human. Like, she also does not have that much time. She can live there if she wants to. She probably is powerful enough. But in terms of just, like, sheer timeline stuff, she doesn't want to go there. But Mel and Zell, two extremely long-lived creatures, direct descendants of the Demon King, they may have time. They may want to spend time. They may, for literally, if they were to go down there into purgatory for a whole year, they'd be fine. They'd be fine. They may come back with some beards. They come back a bit taller. That's all you get. That's all you get. That's how dangerous their lifespan is in terms of just sheer longevity. So these two could remain relevant forever. Like, obviously, I do think one way or another, Arthur or one of Arthur's men, hopefully it's Arthur himself. I really want to see Arthur himself do it, but probably they're going to get packed up. But hypothetically, based on the narrative that Nakaba has established so far, and based on, just simple ABC genetics, it is entirely possible that Meliodas and Zeldris could literally outlive everyone they know and love by thousands, if not millions of times. Just based on their father. Just based on their daddy. Because they got that dog in them. Like, legitimately. In terms of longevity, they got that dog in them. There's nothing outside of actually slaughtering them. If their lifespan is to be believed, who knows? Nakaba could come out tomorrow with a Q&A question. Someone could ask him, oh, hey, now that Meliodas stopped aging, how old is he? And how much time does he have left? And Nakaba could literally just say, oh, well, he's a demon, so he lived 1,000 years. That's it. That's all he has to do. Just immediately debunk this entire thing. But Nakaba hasn't dropped that Q&A question yet. No one's asked Nakaba yet. And based on all the surrounding evidence, from Chandler to Cusack to the Demon King to their actual physical appearance and height relative to their hypothetical older selves that we've seen when the Demon King possessed them, and the prime of the Demon King's life, which is once again like 4 Meliodases tall, it's entirely possible that these guys just haven't lived at all. The only thing that hypothetically throws a wrench in this is the fact that they've grown this tall at all. Like, hypothetically, but then again, that Demon King, before he went to purgatory, before he ate those beasts to become even bigger, was already towering over Meliodas and Elizabeth. So it's entirely possible, but the biggest issue I could see, hypothetically, that someone could bring up is like, hey, they're already extremely powerful, for one. Meliodas already unlocked his true magic at a fraction of his supposed age, apparently. So did Zeldris. Apparently, Omnis Nebula is his Demon King magic. And with that being the case, they already seem to have most abilities of fully grown creatures. They can reproduce. Well, we don't know if Zell can, but he probably has a kid or two. But at least we know Meliodas can reproduce. He has the musculature of an adult person. Obviously, his brain is aged up for the most part. You can definitely argue he still has some like childish tendencies, how he blank. Like, obviously, there are definitely some issues with Meliodas. Some unrepressed issues that he and Elizabeth need to have a long talk about, especially in public. But regardless, it definitely seems like they could be fully grown, and they just got like the omega short end of the stick in terms of both lifespan, height, musculature, everything. But I don't know. With Meliodas being as strong as he is in base, with that being the case, on top of him supposedly constantly visiting the demon realm to bring back supplies for Hendrickson, on top of that, knowing how higher level demons can just completely ignore the 1,000-year lifespan thing, and the fact that the Demon King, naturally, mind you, lived for over 1 billion years, I'm just saying, it's entirely possible, and it's entirely logical that these two could literally just be fundamentally some form of immortal and not fully grown yet. I'm just saying. Y'all can call me crazy. Y'all can say, Pencil, you're looking too deep into it. Go find something else to do with your life. Stop wasting it here. But regardless, I don't know. I've just been thinking about this for a while now. And that it was really that comment that, oh yeah, well, Hendrickson gets stuff from the demon world all the time. So Mel does visit. So it is entirely possible. It is entirely possible. However, this is what I think. This is just my general idea. If you want to add to this, feel free to add in the comment section you want to take away from this and be like, hey, no stupid, you missed this one obvious Q&A question that says they already have a lifespan of 1,000 years and they're already fully grown and stuff like that. If I did, correct me, but, talk about this. Could this mean that Mel and Zell are nowhere near done? What's their end game potential looking like? Could they be even stronger? Could they be like infinitely stronger than their dad? Because once again, look at Mel. Imagine if Mel had kept true magic and had been training for the billion years that his lifespan was. Sure, it would be monotonous and boring. But still, if he's already, like, I'd say just based on multipliers and stuff, if base Mel is already superior to half of the 10 commandments plus Zeldris, who's already a few commandments worth of power, and then he can double that with Demon Mark, he should already be stronger than just like the half-powered Demon King pre any Purgatory amps. No, really, he should be stronger than the full-powered Demon King. He's literally doubling his power. Give that man a couple years of training. It would make sense that he could throw hands with Chaos. I'm just saying. However, enough of that. That was my thoughts. Please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below. You can support for as low as $1 a month. Including exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, you can become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks as a patron and even more. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.